Today is January 11th, 2023. My name is Rob Carter of Kalamazoo Right to Life, and this is Pro-Life Week. Well, I have been inactive the last 2 weeks, as you could probably tell, because I've been fighting the ravages of a bad cold that I picked up just a few days after Christmas. And I'm not 100% yet, but I feel a whole lot better, and we'll see how this taping goes. But I feel bad that I've been unable to be a part of this presentation for the last 2 weeks. First of all, I want to just wish everybody a Happy New Year. The year 2023, it's amazing how these years click by, especially if you get older like I am now. The years click by a lot faster than when you're younger. And we say goodbye to 2022, a momentous year, a historic year. The year that Roe v. Wade was overturned. I mean, we've been waiting for 50 years and 63 million babies aborted. But that's history now, thanks to the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision overturning Roe v. Wade last June. Now, obviously, last year was also a tragic year in Michigan. Our loss of Proposal 3 that will now usher in legal abortion in Michigan and a lot of other very detrimental things to Michigan citizens. But we're believing that this year we're going to turn the corner and continue to work hard for unborn babies and for moms and for families as we seek to defend the sanctity of human life for all stages, from conception to natural death. So a few news items today in the news. They actually occurred today. The first was coming from Nebraska, where a legislator introduced a heartbeat bill. So we've seen last year how more and more states have been enacting heartbeat legislation. Well, Nebraska is somewhat of an outlier, or a state very unlike every other state. And that is because Nebraska has a unicameral legislature. So what does that mean? Well, our government, federal and state, is bicameral. We have a House and a Senate. And in Michigan, in Lansing, we have a House and a Senate. Well, Nebraska only has one legislative body, just one. So if this bill's going to pass, it's going to pass in this one legislative body. And the governor's already said that he will sign it. The problem is that in Nebraska, in this unicameral legislative body, there is a filibuster. And if the Democrats filibuster this bill, the pro-life lawmakers in Nebraska are possibly one vote shy of the 2/3 needed to overcome a Democratic filibuster. So we'll see how this all plays out. But at least Nebraska is moving, at the start of the year, to pass strong pro-life legislation. Also today, in Virginia, the Virginia House has introduced legislation to pass a 15-week abortion ban. Now, the heartbeat is roughly 6 weeks, and the 15-week ban is similar to what was enacted in the state of Mississippi a few years ago, a 15-week ban that became the basis for the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision. And if you recall, too, back when Dobbs was decided back in June, of the 9 Supreme Court justices, 5 voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. And the other 4 voted to retain Roe. Well, one of those 4 was Chief Justice Roberts. Disappointing vote on his part. But when it came to the issue of upholding Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban, he voted with the majority. So the vote was 6-3 to uphold the Mississippi law. And in that sense, the Chief Justice Roberts voted to scrap or dismantle the viability standard that had been enacted or had been imposed since Roe v. Wade. Basically that up until fetal viability, a state could not pass legislation because it wasn't compelling. It needed to be compelling. It needed to be post-viability. And even there, with the issues of health, the legislature they had their hands tied too, because health was such a broad term that practically every post-viability piece of legislation would fail without this health standard that basically said you could still abort for psychological and psychiatric and emotional and health reasons, not just physical. So Roberts and perhaps Virginia is using a more incremental approach to affect or define abortion policies in their states. And I'm not saying that incrementalism is wrong, because that's basically been the strategy that most pro-lifers have been engaging in the last 50 years. But with Dobbs, the impetus has been not really that incremental, because heartbeat is far more aggressive than 15 weeks. Okay, so that happened today as well. Lastly, today in the U.S. House of Representatives, the House voted 221 to 211, so it was a party line vote, to form a new subcommittee chaired by one of my favorite congressmen, Ohio's Jim Jordan. I really like this guy. He's a no-nonsense, take-no-prisoners kind of congressman, very pro-life. The subcommittee will be called the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. You have 13 members, 7 Republicans, and 6 Democrats. So why is this subcommittee needed? Because we have learned recently that the FBI and other federal agencies have worked with big tech and social platform companies like Facebook and Twitter to silence or target or prevent the dissemination of news or information. How can the American public know the truth if information is being censored or blocked? And we saw that, especially back in 2020 with the New York Post publishing information on President Biden's son Hunter and his laptop. And immediately, the social media and network or legacy media circled the wagons, and they prevented information to go out to the American public on this New York Post article. Basically, the Post was silenced and censored from getting that information out. Well, that's going to all change now with Jim Jordan on the case. And then also, it's not just on the FBI targeting conservatives. Then there's also the issue of 22 pro-life individuals have been arrested in 2022 for picketing or praying at abortion clinics. Meanwhile, the FBI has done absolutely nothing when it comes to the 250 cases of pro-abortion targeting, cases of pro-abortion people targeting pregnancy care centers, pro-life offices, and in many, many churches. There's a two-tier system in our country right now where if you are a pro-life person, you are a target. But if you're a pro-abortion organization, you can vandalize a pregnancy care center and get away with it. Well, that's not going to continue anymore. This committee is going to look into the weaponization of the federal government that targets conservatives and pro-life individuals. Last thing on the item on the docket here is in New York State, Governor Kathy Hochul is advancing legislation that would make it easier for women to come to New York to get abortions. I mean, she really wants New York State to be almost like an abortion tourist spot. If you live in a state that is denying access to abortion, come to New York, where we can give you your abortions. The legislature, the state assembly has already passed bills giving millions of dollars to abortion clinics. And when I saw this article on lifenews.com, there was a picture of her standing at the podium, and in front of her there's a caption or a slogan that reads, "A safe harbor for all, protecting abortion rights." Well, when I think of a safe harbor, I think of a ship out there stranded or stuck in turbulent waters or gale winds thrashing, making a boat, practically ready to capsize. And that boat needs every bit of energy to get into that safe harbor, into past that break wall where it is safe. And I think of a safe harbor as a place of security and of protection. But no, for Kathy Hochul, her safe harbor is aborting more babies. When I think of a baby in a womb, that's a safe harbor in that mother's womb, where the baby is warm and safe and protected and receiving nourishment from the mother and growing, incrementally growing to become the person that God has intended that baby to be. That's a safe harbor. A woman's womb. That's a safe harbor. But not to the pro-abortion people. Her safe harbor is to kill the baby at all costs. Her safe harbor is selfish and I would say very narcissistic, because it's all about me. It's all about my sexual needs, my wants, my desires. And that baby is in the way to my goal, my career, my happiness, my sexual pleasures. Maybe I'm reading this wrong, but from my vantage point, most abortions are performed, elective abortions are performed on women who are not having problem pregnancies at all. They may not want to be pregnant, but they're not at risk. And rather than face responsibility and deliver that child and put it up for adoption or raise it on your own, rather than that, they choose to kill that baby. That is unloving. Unloving. So, with that somber note, I'll let you go, and I will see you next time.